Welcome children for the next episode of Food Security and Nutrition Part 2. Now we are going to deal about how food has been distributed among the people. That is, now what we had learned earlier is how the food has been prepared or produced and how nutritious it should be. All the quality has been checked by the government. Now what the government should do, they have to distribute among the people. For this they have started the fair price system, that is public distribution system has been started by the Tamil Nadu government. Not only by the Tamil Nadu government, the entire country has to follow this. So especially we are talking about Tamil Nadu. So Tamil Nadu government has adopted a universal PDS. Universal means you will be learning or you will be very often hearing about saying this word in Tamil. ஒரு நாடு ஒரு தேசம் ஒரு ரேஷன் கார்டு அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டேன். அந்த விஷயத்தை நம்ம இங்கே அடாப்ட் பண்ணுறோம். யூனிவர்சல் PDS, யூனிவர்சல் பப்ளிக் டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூஷன், which means you will be having all the family cards will be given a ration card for you. With the help of this ration card, you can get your food supplies from the government at a lower rate. This is very important. Why? Because the public has to be given importance. That is, the government has to take care of the citizen, not only for protecting or for the economic growth, even for the food supplies, because you should be very nutritious. The citizen should be very nutritious also. You should be very healthy, isn't it? For that also the government has to take care. So that is why they are going to supply food supplies among the people. So for this they have adopted this public distribution system. Now they have targeted PDS. What happened? The beneficiaries are identified based on some criteria. That is, targeted PDS means public distribution system is targeted to one particular sector alone. Why this has been done? Why the system has been adopted? Because you have to, whenever we are going to talk about our economy, we always say there is a gap between a rich and a poor, isn't it? So the poor has to be concentrated more. So that is why they say that it is a targeted PDS has to be given. That is, targeting one particular sector of the economy has to be targeted, and they should get the benefit from the government at a lower price. So for that reason they have stated this targeted PDS, and these beneficiary will be identified and they will be given, the food supplies will be given to them. Okay. Next is, when you are going to talk about the distribution should be equal. There should not be any differentiation between any people, isn't it? And you should not differentiate. We will be giving only to the poor sector, or we will be giving only for the higher income or the low income. No, you cannot differentiate anything. All the citizen must be taken care of the government. So for that reason, what they said, they adopted this public distribution system, and through National Food Security Act was passed in the Parliament in 2013, and over 50% of the urban households and 75% of the rural households have been benefited through this system. Okay, next we will go on to what is the role of consumer cooperative in food security. How consumer cooperatives plays a important role in the food security. So what is it? They have formed a 3-tier structure over there. What is it? It is primary consumer cooperative, central consumer cooperative, and state level consumer cooperatives. This is called as a 3-tier structure of the consumer cooperative society. What does the primary consumer cooperatives do? They take into consideration the income of the people. According to the income of the people, they will be segregated, or they will be displayed, or they will have a clear idea how you can distribute the food, especially for the low income people, for a middle income people, and for the high income people. According to that, they have framed this 3-tier structure, that is primary consumer cooperative society, central consumer cooperative society, and state level consumer cooperatives has been fed. All these food securities, all these food which has been produced by the country is given through fair price shops. Fair price shops is nothing but the ration shop, what we called as a ration shop, that is known as the fair price shop. It is run by the government, and fully 94% of the contribution has been made by this cooperative societies. Most of you can find out, or you can see that you will be having a thing called as cooperative societies only. It will be not called as a fair shops or a ration shop. It will be called as a cooperative shops only. Why? Cooperatives role plays a very important over there. And next is, what is the meaning of buffer stock and purchasing power? See, buffer stock is nothing but where you store your food grains. Food grains has to be stored, isn't it? You cannot just supply whatever production you are doing. According to the production, you have to supply also. So, before supplying, the food grain has to be stored in one particular place, or it is called as a godown, isn't it? When you store food grain, it is called as a buffer stock, specially by the government. That is, the government will take up the responsibility of consuming or producing the food, and at the same time, it has to be stored for the benefit for the future or the upcoming year. So, that is known as buffer stock. What does the Food Corporation in India? What it will do? It will purchase wheat and rice from the farmers and it will be stored. And when there is a surplus production, it has to be stored in one particular place. So, that storage is called as buffer stock. So, buffer stock is done. Why? To distribute the food grains to the deficit areas. That is, deficit areas na enga kammiya irukko, enga vandu makkal togai kammiya irukko, illa romba poor people will be there and they will be giving only at a lower price. The price of the food will not be very high. The food grains will be given at a very low price than the market price. See, we would have dealt with in earlier part of the lesson, saying that the market price is fixed by the government, isn't it? So, when the farmer is free to go and sell it in the open market also, we would have learnt all these things. But when we talk about this buffer stock, why this buffer stock has been given this much of importance? Because you have to concentrate on people who are having a very low income. Even they have to be concentrated. So, for that reason, they will be selling it at a lower price than the market price. The market price, it will be sold. Market price is fixed by the government. But below that is lowering that price also. That price also will be shortcut by the government in order to distribute to the people who are having a very low income. Why this has to be done? Why this buffer stock has to be done? Because it will help in the storage of food grains, especially during weather condition, isn't it? You have got the adverse weather conditions are there and there will be period of calamities over there. So, during that time, this buffer stock will help for distribution of the food grains to the people, because during flood and all, we cannot go out and purchase our food materials, isn't it? So, for that reason, the government will arrange or the government will help you in storing the food grains. Why the government has to help in storing the food grains? Why not the people alone can just store them? Why you cannot make a stock, isn't it? The stock cannot be kept at home. For whatever we need for home purposes, we will buy only for a smaller quantity. But when we go for, as far as government is concerned, the government will produce in a large quantity and it will be stored properly. All the protection will be given for the food grain so that it won't be damaged even during the calamity times or adverse weather conditions. Even during that time, the food grains will be it will be protected properly by the government. So, that is why they use this buffer stock. And you must know what is the purchasing power. We would have already dealt with this particular term called purchasing power. What is purchasing power? It is nothing but the value of the currency expressed in terms of the amount of goods or services that one unit or money which can be bought. That is, when I want to purchase a particular product, I need some money in my hand, or if I want to have some goods and services, that has to be purchased by me. What will I do? I have to earn my income. This we would have dealt with in the previous classes also. So, same thing I am repeating, because these are all very important terms as far as economics is concerned. You must know all these terms, you should remember. So, that is why I am repeating this again. Purchasing power is nothing but the currency that I am going to have it to buy my product. That is I should have my purchasing power and I should be satisfied with the purchase of the product. See, only if I am satisfied, I will buy. This part of it, I will explain it with a simple example. See, I am a student, okay. When I become a student, what is very important over there to have should go to the school and I should write and read. So, for that I need some pen, notebooks and pencils also for me to write and read. Even if I am at home, I need all these things because I am a student. So, what is it? I must earn an income in order to purchase the notebooks, the pencils, the pen. So, all this is known as the purchasing power of that particular citizen or particular person according to the nature of the citizen. If it is a student, that purchasing power will be concentrated on the notebooks and pencils and the pen. If it is an elder person who is going to earn an income or who is going to an office, what will be his purchasing power? What is the purchasing power of a father? What will he think? He'll be thinking about the family, isn't it? The family has to be taken into consideration. What is very essential for a family? You need, as you say, nowadays TVs and fridge and the washing machine has become a necessity product without which we cannot live. So, all these things now has become a necessity product. So, the father will be thinking of buying all these things, that is to make you have a sophisticated life. Sophisticated means you need not overburden your own self. That is, you will be having a very nice accommodation in your house. So, the purchasing power of father will be different, the purchasing power of the student or a son will be different, and the purchasing power of mother also will be different. She will also be concentrating on the family. So, the purchasing power differs from one person to another person or one individual to another individual. So, according to the purchasing power or according to my satisfaction, I have to earn, and all these things will be taken into consideration by the government because it has to protect the citizen of the country, isn't it? So, when it got this kind of a responsibility, the government is held responsible to see the welfare. Again and again I am telling, see, the welfare of the citizen is very important. When you talk about the welfare, you should take into consideration the purchasing power also, the income of the person also. Next is factors affecting the purchasing power. What is the factors affecting purchasing power? First one is overpopulation, that is large population leads to increasing in demand, but the supply will not be equal to the demand, isn't it? These are the factors that affect the purchasing power. First one is overpopulation. As we have spoken in the earlier classes, stating that India is overpopulated. That I told you, you have to take into consideration as a positive thinking, saying that it is a human resource development, isn't it? But here, see, again it is a drawback here. So, when I spoke there, I spoke about the human resource development. But now I am saying it as a disadvantage because of large population, you will be having an increase in the demand, but the supply will not be equal to your demand. So, this factor will affect your purchasing power. See, I will make it more clear here. See, when I say that I want to buy a TV, but I do not have that much of money in my hand, then there is a demand for a TV, but I do not have money, that much of money in my hand. So, my demand will not be equal to my supply. Or the food grains, when we talk about during calamities or during the flood time, what will happen? The food will be in demand, but the supply will not be equal to your demand because it is given by the government. The government will take up the responsibility. So, the supply will not be equal to your demand. So, this is the first factor that is going to affect your purchasing power. Next factor is increases of the prices of essential goods. What is essential goods? When we talk about essential goods, again it depends upon the person who is going to buy the product. It depends upon the citizen or the people who is going to buy the particular product. So, that is known as increased prices of essential goods. When you are purchasing power, what will happen? Because there is a continuous rise in the price of the essential goods, what will happen? It is going to affect the people, because if there is a price rise, no one will buy. isn't it? Even though you may have money, you will not buy because there is a increase in the price, isn't it? Now we are unable to buy gold and all. Why we are unable to buy gold? Because it is the price of the gold is very high. So ordinary people or poor people will not be able to afford them, or they will not be able to go and purchase gold because the prices has raised. So the purchasing power of gold will come down. Okay. Next is the demand for the goods will increase. This increase, what will happen? It depends upon the price. Demand always depends upon the price. That is demand, supply and price. All the three factors, they go hand in hand. Okay. If you talk about demand of a goods, immediately you have to speak about the supply also. And again you have to take into consideration the price of the goods also. If the price increases, demand, what will happen? Opposite, it will reduce. Why? Because the prices rise. I cannot afford buying that particular product. So the demand will go down. So if you want to increase your demand, what should you do? The price has to be reduced. So for that, the government will interfere. So according to that, the government will distribute your food. Next is, when the purchasing power decreases, the value of the currency also will go down. See, for example, if you are with your grandfather and your grandmother, they would speak. In those olden days, we used to have 5 paise, 10 paise, 25 paises, isn't it? All these paises are not available now. All this is being extinguished, isn't it? It is not in practice. We don't take into consideration 5 paise, 10 paise and 25 paise. So what will happen? We are not aware of it, how it is. But when our grandfather and our grandmother was there, they were using this 5 paise, 10 paise and 25 paise. Now it is not in practice. So what they will tell, the same product, what you are going to purchase for 10 rupees, the grandfather would have bought it for 50 paise or 1 rupee. So see the value of the currency, that is known as the value of the currency. The value of the currency will rise if the purchasing power comes down. So when your purchasing power decreases, the value of the currency will also decrease because you are not in a position to buy the particular product. So that is also a main factor which affects your purchasing power. Next is production of goods and supplies. Same way, when you produce, you must know what is your supply also. The government should know how to supply the goods. So all these things are the factors which will affect the purchasing power. Next is, when we talk about especially Indian economy, our economy always faces a critical position. Our GDP is not so high compared to other countries. So what will happen? That is, when we are talking about some factors affecting the purchasing power or our distribution system, all these things we take into consideration only from the point of view of our own country, of our economy. So that is very important. So according to the Indian economy, we will be having our public distribution. Next, we are going to see how this purchasing power will affect the people in general. That is, they have got a purchasing power parity is there. This concept was related to this purchasing power parity, PPP, 3 P's together. It is an continuous economic theory which has been, which estimates the amount that needs to be submitted to the price of an goods, okay, price of an item or a price of a good. So always when we talk about purchasing power, the price of the product is also very essential. So you have to compare. When you are going to compare the purchasing power of our country with the other countries, the income has to be taken into consideration of the particular country also. Then what is the per capita income of the people also has to be taken into consideration for the purchasing power. Next, we will go on to agricultural policy in India. Why this has to be designed? The new agricultural policy is designed by the government for raising the agricultural production. The agricultural produce has to be raised because we are overpopulated. So it has to be raised. So what are the important objectives of India's agricultural policy? Is raising the production of inputs by HYV. What is HYV? Is high yield variety of seeds that has been distributed to the fertilizers, and high yield variety seeds and fertilizers has been distributed to the farmers to increase their per hectare value, and it will be what? It will improve your productivity of small and marginal holdings also. What is small and marginal holdings means? Small area wherein you are going to do your farming part of it. So, even if it is small, you can use this high yielding variety of seeds and use fertilizers so that your production will increase. Next is to protect the interest of the poor peoples by abolishing intermediaries. Who are those called as intermediaries? The intermediaries are person who is going to have who is going to act as an intermediary between the government and the farmer in order to raise the price of the farming products. So, what will happen? The intermediaries will enjoy the profit that they are going to get it from them. The farmer, the ultimate producer, will not enjoy the profit. So, they want to abolish the intermediaries. So, this agriculture policy has been designed by our government. Next is to support the production of modern technologies. Now, the technology has been developed. So, you must know what are the technologies and how it is to be, it should not be degraded, because you should not, it should not affect the natural environment. Just because I am going to use new technologies, my nature or my soil should not be affected. So, all these things was taken into consideration, and this agricultural policy was framed in India. It was designed. Next, we will go on to multi-dimensional nature of poverty. This word poverty arose because when we spoke about GDP and all, this poverty has a great impact on GDP. Now, when we talk about, or when the poor people has to be, even they have to be given some importance, even their standard of living has to rise. So, that is why they had a multi-dimensional nature of poverty was launched through United Nations Development Program, and the Oxford University also came into, and they designed the multinational nature, and they said you have to have a human development. The human has to be developed. That is, you must know how to use the technology, and you should know how to initiate them, how to give a support to them, so that they will also have a increase in their per capita income or their own income, so that the GDP will rise. When the GDP rises, automatically our economy also will rise. So, multi-dimensional poverty, it is made up of several factors, like saying about health, education, living standards, income, and the disempowerment. Disempowerment means what here? That is, we will be giving the opportunity for them to come up in their life, but they will not be using the opportunity proper, or just because they are illiterate, they doesn't know how to use the opportunity that has been given by the government. So, that is known as disempowerment. So, these are the factors. I will repeat the factors. The factors which will affect the multidimensional is, one is health, another is education, next is living standards and income, and the last one is disempowerment. Disempowerment means, I will repeat, it is nothing but where the opportunity will be given by the government, but the person who is, we have to accept it, or we must know what are the opportunities available in the government, so that I will also improve my standard of living. That should be learnt by the citizen. If they are not aware, if they are illiterate, they will not be able to utilize this particular opportunity given by the government. So, that is known as disempowerment. So, multinational poverty, according, they have taken up a census. In 2018, they have, especially in Tamil Nadu, they have reported, that is over last decades means 10 years. Okay, last decades, Tamil Nadu had made a significant progress in poverty reduction. The districts in Tamil Nadu are classified into 3 categories, that is high poverty, moderately poor district, low level. All these levels has been given to you. That is, high poverty means more than 40%, moderate means 30 to 40%, low level means below 30. So, they have separated this, they have given categories, and according to that the government will take the interest. Then I have drawn a picture of multi-dimensional poverty. You can go through the picture that is available in your textbook, so that you can go through. Next, we will talk about the top and bottom of MPI districts in Tamil Nadu, especially in Tamil Nadu. that is Kanjipuram, Chennai, Kadalur, Coimbatore and Nagapattinam are top 5 districts, and bottom 5 districts are Dharmapuri, Perambalur, Ramanathapuram and then Ariyalur. Okay, all these things are there. Next we are going to talk about nutrition and health status. That is, in 2015 to 16, 27% of the rural women and 16% of the urban women were counted as undernourished. That is, they do not have that much of energy in them, and 60% of the rural and 56% of the urban children are counted to be anemic. Then 41% and 31% of the urban were counted as underweight. So, these are the nutrition and health status overall the country. Especially in Tamil Nadu, a large number of Indian children and women were underweight and anemic and suffer from micronutrient deficiencies. So, the central and the state government introduced various health and nutritious schemes, especially IDCS, RCH, NRHM. The special performance of the scheme of Purachi Talaivar MGR, nutritious meal program, which was considered to be the one of the best in the country, and we are still adopting this particular program. Because of this, so many children are getting the benefits, and large number of people are many children who doesn't want to come to school also, they are coming to school just because to have this noon meal. So, these are the different programs that has been given by our government, so that you can increase the level of literacy level also can be increased, and at the same time your food level also can be increased. So, we come to the end of this lesson, children, and I think you would have learnt about agricultural policies, our export policies, all these policies you take into consideration, go through the concepts and go through the textbooks, read well for your examination. Thank you, children.